Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to our slot. My name is Ellahi. I would love to welcome my fabulous guest this morning, Mabatu Tlale. Good morning and welcome, Mabatu. And thank you to Career Indaba as well. Glad to have you here, Mabatu. If you don't mind, I know you don't like talking about yourself. You love talking about subject matter, topics, etc. But I am going to talk a little bit about you, if you don't mind. Sorry to put you on the spotlight and on stage. And if I've left anything out, Mabatu, please let me know. Or if I've been misaligned with my feedback of you. So I'm going to just quickly talk about Mabatu Tlale, who is the Chief Human Capital Officer advocate for people and possibility. I like the advocate thing because I know you've got a legal qualification. Right?
Thank you.
So Mabatu Tlale, I would say, is a bold and accomplished human capital executive with over 20 years of experience driving strategic people initiatives. Mabatu, you're very skilled at operationalizing strategy and strategizing operational stuff. So very good change management there and robust in your approach as well. As Chief Human Capital Officer at Zeda, Mabatu leads with purpose, aligning business goals with human potential to foster performance, growth, and engagement. Passionate about people and deeply committed to equality. And that I can, with working with Mabatu, that I can say for a fact, Mabatu, you've worked in some very challenging environments where you've made very robust moves as well. Okay. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a technical glitch here, so I've just lost myself a bit. Murphy's Law. This is testing our agility. Well, basically, passionate about people and deeply committed to equality, that we know for a fact, and that's why we're having this wonderful topic about neurodivergent talent. Well done, they're very close to my heart as well. Mabatu, one of your major achievements recently was you got Zeda to be certified as a top employer.
Yes, with my team.
With all the changes in the past few years, good God, Wonderful. I want to know more about that. Beyond the boardroom, if I may, styling it the way she does. Junkie who's jumped from the highest point in Africa, parasailed over Mauritius. I don't know why would you would want to do that, but good on you. And
The
left from
wild side.
various towers. It reminds me of Queen Latifah's movie, The Last Holiday, where she went from the tower. And
Yeah.
also, you landed yourself on an international cooking show, showing that you bring energy, flair, creativity, agility, pliability to everything that you do. And you're currently pursuing your master's in labor law. This builds on your legal foundation with a Bachelor of Laws completed. Whether you are speaking on leadership, transformation, or the future of work, you inspire us all, stakeholders, even employees, with authenticity, insight, and I have to say, unstoppable drive. You're very robust. So is there anything that I've left out there, Mobatu? Anything you'd like me to add on? Or have I didn't mean to show off.
If I didn't know any better, Ellen, I'd say you've been stalking me. But thank you so much for the warm introduction. Yes, I am the Human Capital Officer at Zeda, a leading mobility solutions provider. We operate across 11 countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. We are mostly known for the Avis and Budget brands. But our purpose goes beyond transportation, and which is why I'm excited to be sitting with you today. At Zeda, we live by our motto of connecting humanity. It's a commitment that shows up in everything that we do, from how we serve our customers, how we care for our people. I mean, one of the examples is that we offer full maintenance leasing program to our employees and also your employees if you partner with us, which is a practical way of making sure that our people are safe and that they have well-maintained vehicles. But besides what we hear today, it's not just about mobility, it's about dignity, it's about safety, it's about inclusion, it's about belonging. And given the conversation that we're having today, my journey has been shaped by personal experiences. I also have a nephew who is autistic, super smart young man in his teenage years, and a deep belief that inclusion and belonging is not just about policy, it's about a culture. I live with OCD and misophonia, and I've seen at first hand how empathy and not silence creates belonging. And if you watch international cooking show, you would know, I think the whole of South Africa knows now that I'm hectic with my OCD, but yeah, we find ways to work around it and use it as a power, as a secret power.
Yes, absolutely. And did you find it therapeutic doing that? Or did you put yourself under pressure?
It's not therapeutic because most of the time you find yourself having to explain why you want things in a certain manner. I live to see a world where we can be quite accepting of differently abled people, whether it's OCD, whether it's mental health, and I'm hoping that we can unpack that today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that context. So I want to get straight into the neurodivergent talent. Okay, because very close to my heart as well. I've got a 15-year-old boy who's on the spectrum. I never know what terminology to use. I get corrected all the time. And he's an awesome individual, so this is very close to my heart. Thank you so much. Basically, I know you touched on this as well, but I'd like to know a little bit more about Mobatu, if you can just extract that from me in terms of your journey and what has shaped your perspective on neurodivergent talent in the workplace as such. Okay, so neurodivergent, it's a whole lot of new terminology that's relating to the workplace now and future leaders and career pathways. And so if you can just tell our audience a little bit about that.
Okay.
What's your perspective?
Yeah, I would say neurodiversity recognizes that there is no single normal way of thinking or learning or interacting. And it includes, and I'd say conditions, for lack of a better word, or superpowers in terms of autism, ADHD, dyslexia, it always gets me. Tourette's, I think you and I have had a conversation around Tourette's before. Anxiety, even mental health is actually classified as neurodiversity. And these are not deficits, but they are differences that bring unique strengths in the world today, in the corporate world, in how we operate as people. For example, if you look at an HD, someone who's got an HDHD, they have a hyper focus and agility in a crisis response. So you would use them for in a crisis situation. You better partner with someone who is ADHD because they'd be able to
Yeah.
help you navigate that situation. If you look at someone who struggles with autism, they're great at pattern recognition, which is vital in analytics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'd say OCD, which is my world, precision and consistency is key. And we are best suitable in compliance led roles, in legal roles. And maybe that's why I went into law. But any
Mm.
way you would follow rules and it would be
Mm.
consistently applied. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And tell me, and I need to personalize this to a certain extent because you
Mm,
are currently at Zeta, and I
yeah.
think instead of giving general broad overviews, I'd like to know if I may ask, some of the initiatives Zeta has implemented to support neurodivergent and differently abled employees.
Mm,
Um, is there, I'd like to know your perspective in what initiatives.
mm. So there's still quite a lot of stigma around differently abled or disclosing disabilities in general, without even going into a neurodivergent conversation, which is still something that is new, something that markets and corporates are still struggling to comprehend or to appreciate.
Mm.
So what we've done at Zeta is that we've made it a norm to talk about mental health. We've made it a norm to talk about emotional resilience. We've partnered with our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program called Lyra, where we offer our brand ambassadors, we refer to our employees as brand ambassadors, to give them confidential support. We've run campaigns. Did you know it was so cute? We had like a chappy and a postcard size where we informed business about different neurodivergent talents or conditions that are out there. Just around making sure that we create awareness. And we just didn't focus on written communication. We did visual. We had conversations around it where our business partners would go into different departments and speak about it. And there's absolutely more initiatives that we could put in place, but we still take small steps into getting business to understand neurodiversity and how we can
Okay.
work or leverage on those strengths.
Awesome. And in general, I think people have been, employers, corporates have been on a journey to, embark from an inclusivity perspective, but yet, um, despite these efforts, disclosure
Mm,
rates remain low. Well, what does it
mm,
tell us, or what does it tell us about workplace culture and psychological safety, etc.? I don't know if that question makes sense to
mhm.
you. And do
Yes.
you comment on that?
Mm. So my view is that safety isn't created by policy; it's created by culture. You have to create psychologically safe environments to encourage disclosure. There is a stigma in general, and it's not exclusive to Zeta, but I think every in all the companies that I've worked for, it's always a struggle to get employees to disclose their conditions, and it's a pity because then in a genuine environment where the culture is right, that employee should be empowered to thrive like anyone else. So we need to normalize differences through visible leadership stories. Share stories about leaders that are struggling with neurodiversity or are differently abled on how they have maximized on this condition. We need to train our managers to respond with empathy and not judgment. We need to create channels and platforms where employees can come through and just have a conversation, and where we can actually pick up any signals and assist the employees. And we need to celebrate neurodivergent strength, be it through internal communications or through town halls. We need to have more conversations around it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And
Mhm.
since you are in the HR world and that's your expertise, legal and everything, but mostly HR, your in terms of HR's role in supporting neurodivergent talent, what role should HR play in educating managers to spot and support neurodiverse talent? And I'm telling you why I will tell you why I'm asking this. As a recruiter for many years, I'm
Mm,
passionate about future leaders. I'm passionate about young talent and things like
mm,
that as well, you know.
mm.
And it would be nice for me as well to know, because I work with one aspect of HR, which is on the recruitment side. But
Yeah.
what role do you think HR should be playing? Because obviously you will be custodians and brand ambassadors of the business and sensitizing your hiring managers as such, you know.
Mm.
Any input there for me?
So I actually think it's not, and I think that's where we go wrong, where we think it's just an HR role. It's a leadership role. It obviously being championed by HR, but we need to collaborate with business to foster
Mhm.
psychological safe environments where employees feel comfortable to disclose. And that includes from an onboarding, and I like that you speak about recruitment because that's where it actually starts. What sort of platforms do you have when you invite the talent into your business? How do you introduce neurodiversity as a strength? From a manager perspective, what guidance do we give them on accommodation and empathy? Do you check your environment first to see if you are able to accommodate? And if you're not able to accommodate, is it something that you can invest in so that you're able to attract that talent too? We also there's also quite a lot of bias still and assumptions. So we need to reduce those assumptions by running bias training with line management and the business as a whole. Because your line manager might understand it, but if the people I'm going to work with still hold some assumptions around disabilities, then it creates a negative culture for that person to thrive. And I would also say from an HR perspective, create peer support networks to build a community and trust around supporting neurodivergent talent.
Awesome. I've also find in my world of work, I've had to really relook at the way I interview and
Mm,
accommodate,
mm,
because you cannot have a typically outcomes-based interview or a strengths and weakness one or a behavioral-based one. Uh,
definitely.
you have to really align and customize, because I mean,
Mhm,
if you think about it, some of the applicants I've dealt with are highly skilled in a certain aspect.
mm,
Data scientist, for example,
mm.
a typical interview they will not succeed in, because it's
Yep.
not designed to bring out the best in the skill and the outcome in the future and the end result.
Mm,
So yes, I'm on the same page with you on that one. I'd like to talk about the legal landscape, if you don't mind, since you have the
my love.
legal active. What does the updated Employment Equity Act say about differently abled people and neurodiversity? Um,
Mhm.
and I'm referring to the Employment Equity Act of 2025. Is there, what does the act say about it?
So the EEA has been a game changer. The amendments brought in have marked a bold and progressive shift in how disability is understood in the workplace. The updated definition now includes long-term and or reoccurring physical, mental, intellectual, and sensory impairments, such as autism. We've spoken about it earlier on, dyslexia, mental health. I'm hoping to see my condition as well, because I struggle with sensory, called misophonia.
Yes.
When interacting with external barriers may limit access to employment. So the powerful part of this amendment is that it reframes disability as not a deficit, but as a systematic challenge that empowers employers to have the power and responsibility to dismantle destigmatize disabilities.
Okay.
And why is it a positive? Sorry, I'm going to be long-winded, because I think it's
No, it's
important
fine.
to talk about how the EEA is empowering us as organizations to look at neurodivergent or differently abled employees differently. It's a positive step forward because it expands recognition. It now formally acknowledges these conditions. It's validating lived experiences of thousands of South Africans. It's also a shift from fixing the person to fixing the environment, whether that's a biased hiring practice, or it's inaccessible tech, or it's a workplace stigma. It's a barrier busting mindset. And lastly, I think what was interesting is that if you look at South Africa is now catching up with the international standards. Neurodiversity overseas has been in conversations for the longest of time, and they found ways, or navigated or found ways to accommodate this differently abled talent. So it's a global alignment as well. So it isn't just a compliance, it's a call for courageous leadership. It's about building workplaces where differences are not just accepted, but they're celebrated as a competitive advantage.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think, well, I know for a fact, I mean, and I'm glad to see that this is gazetted and
Yeah.
it's legislated,
Mm.
because then this, for want of a better term, enforces inclusivity
Yeah.
as well, and easier to integrate and synthesize into the recruitment process and the onboarding process as well,
Mm.
when you are
Mm.
engaging with applicants and you're creating all these opportunities as well. Because you
Mm.
will find, employers are quite bottom line driven. It's a competitive environment,
Absolutely.
generally, and now you need to include talent, not from a social conscience point of view only, but because your neurodivergent talent come with skills
True.
that are like really super smart skills,
Mm.
cognitively next level. And
Mm.
that adds value to the business and bottom line and
Mm.
everything else. So thanks for clarifying that. In
Awesome.
terms of Mabatu, in terms of now your post placement, so you've got this process in place and you've got the whole
Mm.
sensitization in the legislation. What about designing inclusive systems and how
Mm.
leaders can move beyond the token of inclusion and actively design a system that support neurodivergent employees going forward? So whether
Mm.
it is someone who might not enjoy leadership but can work in a functional management role,
Mm.
from a capacitation point of view, from a system point of view. So it's a long-term journey, not just plugging a hole to say, okay, well, this is now what you're good at, you're going to stay there. So I
Mm.
don't know if maybe I definitely am ADHD. So question, designing
So we
systems
need to put you in the crisis team.
yeah, in the crisis team,
I,
yeah.
I, yeah, I am going to take it back though, because for me, you always have to start from Genesis. From the time when you bring in that employee, you must have had psychometric assessments. And I know psychometric assessments can be very disadvantaging if you don't expand it to accommodate neurodivergent candidates. And I think that's where we need to start, so that we don't just look at you as an ADHD employee, but we also then look at what are the other opportunities given your condition, so that we can then plot your succession or your talent accordingly. To say Alan has ADHD, we might be hiring him into the crisis management team, but what are the other opportunities that are available to him? Build that inclusive leadership training so that we are forever looking at all employees from one lens and not treating them different, because that on its own will create it will take away from the inclusion if you're going to continue or perpetuate them being seen different. Yeah, and then I'd say champion things like DEIB, which is something that Zeta has done well over the past year and a half, almost 2 years. We've included belonging in our. It's not about D&I anymore. It's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Because you can be included but not feel that you belong. So that's something that we are quite vocal about. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I don't know where you get the time to do all of these things. 8 hours in a day for you.
Yeah.
Relating to young talent and future leaders, what
Yeah.
advice would you give to young neurodivergent professionals and future leaders investigating the workplace or embarking on the world of work? You know, I think about my son and I see he's so super smart and so skilled
Yeah.
at certain things. And we learn a lot more from him than what he learns from us. We've had to change
Absolutely.
everything the way we work. And there's potential and awesome skills.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give to young neurodivergent professionals and future leaders
I
navigating
would
the
love
world?
to see the world through my nephew's eyes. And the one thing that I would give advice to them would be that you don't need to fix yourself to fit in. Your difference is your strength. Look for environments that value authenticity. And to leaders, let's create spaces where young talent can feel safe to be brilliant in their own way.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. In terms of, I'm going to use this to gain something here.
Yeah.
You know, we deal with our children from our perspective,
Yeah.
okay? But now you're looking at it from a world of work. So they at home in a safe space, they parents, children, or guardians, kids, or whatever. But now they're going out in this big world. Supporting parents of neurodivergent youth. How should parents with neurodivergent children prepare them for the world of work, would you say, from an employer's perspective?
I think of utmost importance is to encourage self-awareness and self-advocacy. Help them to understand that their strengths and how they communicate their needs. Expose them to inclusive environments. I think we tend to keep them indoors, or we tend to keep them with the same community. Start exposing them to different environments so that when they're ready to get into the world of work, they don't get shocked by a different culture. And then expose them to different role models. And again, teach them that their difference is not a limitation, but it's a superpower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I knew earlier on in my career that being OCD is a superpower, I think I would have been even further.
That was my next question. You're very proactive. I think one of your other super skills is predicting the future, because my next question was your personal reflection. And sorry, you know, you mentioned it yourself, but I'd
Yeah,
like to touch on that.
yeah.
You know, you're quite open about your experience with OCD and misophonia. I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, which I understand to be triggered by sounds that people wouldn't normally be triggered by, you know, and I think we all have some of it in us. You know, you've been open about how has empathy from your colleagues shaped your sense of inclusion? Because most people will say, oh, you know what, you're just being a perfectionist, you're just being fussy, you're just being nitpicky or whatever, but not understanding that it is actually a condition. You have no idea how it can hit a nerve and send you out of your space when you have this misophonia condition.
Yeah.
It can be very derailing. And how has empathy from your colleagues shaped your sense of inclusion? Because on the one hand, we say, no, we need to declare so they understand. On
Yeah.
the one hand, you're saying, you know what, why do I need to actually make it seem like I'm marginalizing myself? Tell me about your journey there, because it's
And like,
actually, it's a
and
real
like,
thing. And OCD is as well, hey? OCD is as well.
yeah. And like I said earlier on, it's not about policy. I mean, I can disclose and then what? It's about the culture that you create. But first, that culture has to start at home. My husband doesn't eat in front of me because his chewing gets to me. But
Oh,
anyway, and I've learned over the years that it's not the silence that makes me feel valued. And one has had to take the view that being different is an opportunity to actually create that awareness. So in any room that I enter, I make it a point that people are aware that I'm sensitive to noise. I'll gently let you know that please don't click or please don't do this. I'm also quite aware that there are other people that are quite fidgety in nature. So I'll either stay away from you because I also need to understand that that's your way of controlling yourself. But from my colleagues' perspective, I've been fortunate. At Zeta, yes, we joke about it. They will click sometimes to see my reaction, but I know at the bottom of their hearts, it's a tease, and they will stop immediately when someone is clicking their pen. They'll first look at me to see if I have their attention, and will laugh about it. But it leaves a warm and fuzzy feeling because it says to me they recognize that I've got a condition, and they're aware, and they'll do whatever it takes to accommodate me.
awesome. And yeah, it can be quite exposing but empowering at the same time. About
Mm.
you, can we take a short break? I've still got one or two questions. Will that be fine with you, or do you need to leave us? Please don't leave us. Come and join us.
For you, Ellen, I'll grant you the 2 minutes.
Okay, so we'll take a short break and then we
No,
get back
not a problem.
to this, and then just let me know. Yeah, is that okay with the?
I'm happy
Right?
to accommodate
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, Mobatu.
All
Let's
right.
talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. Career Talk, because the future of work starts with you. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. Career Talk, because the future of work starts with you.
Hi, welcome back, guys. I didn't realize I was back on. Luckily, I didn't say anything untoward. So, Mabatu, thank you so much for allowing me that break. I saw you were back online before me. So, Mabatu, the next question is basically a final message, and obviously we can talk about further things if you want to, throw in anything else to sensitize people on this wonderful journey that we should all be going on. What final message would you like leaders, specifically leaders, okay, because they make an impact in the workplace, okay, about the power of neurodiversity in the workplace as such? I think you're on mute there, Mabatu. Sorry. Still on mute.
Okay, it says the voice.
That's a normal term since COVID. You're on mute. You are on the market.
User problem. So from a leader perspective, I'd say of utmost importance is to create psychological safety. I don't think we can ever put enough emphasis on that. Create the environment where your employees, your brand ambassadors are able to approach you and speak freely around their conditions. And if you don't know how to accommodate or you don't know how to respond, because we don't always have to know the answers. I think one of the biggest pressure that we put on ourselves as leaders is that we want to know everything. We want to be able to answer those questions. I mean, as Zeda itself, we're also still taking baby steps, like the rest of South Africa is taking steps in understanding neurodivergent talent and looking at different initiatives that we can put in place. So start small, expose yourself to different platforms, have conversations with other organizations that might be ahead of us, have conversations with your employees. I can bet you that in a team of 14 people, you will find that you've got employees that are struggling on a daily basis with some neurodivergent condition that we're not aware of, or that they're also not aware of. So if we can look at neurodiversity as not, it's not a challenge to manage, it's rather a strength to harness. And when every mind feels safe to show up, the workplace becomes human and unstoppable.
Amazing. And I'm so touched to hear that this is that you're the custodian of the business. Not only are you not only are you the chief people officer, I've known you to drive change a lot. From your previous employers as well.
Yeah.
You've been very integrated. You understand the business.
Yeah.
You have the capacity to create culture change shift. I've just created a terminology, culture change.
I like that. I'm going to do a hashtag after this.
And also in an industry which is very robust, very competitive. It's very you refer to your employees as brand ambassadors, which is you people focus, you people centric. And normally with industries like this, whether it's travel, tourism, hospitality, car rental, airlines, and it's all about the look and the profile and about you fit into a certain box. And you most certainly have brought in a lot of diversity in different ways in the business. So well done on that, Mabatu, and thank you for sharing your insights. And the point I was trying to make is, normally, usually, I don't know if it still happens, when it comes to aspects of HR like this, it's a employee well-being person only, or an EAP person. You've now integrated to drive it in the business. So it's not just a social conscience type of project where you need to get your DTI numbers right. It's about putting the pieces of the puzzle that's going to add value to the business, short term, long term.
Absolutely.
You're mixing it up. We're living in a globally connected world. Zeda is a globally connected company.
True.
And you are changing the culture. And I don't know where you're at with your competitors, but they definitely have something to learn from you as well. So thank you for that. Is there any parting words, anything else you'd like to talk to us about? Add in? I just want to thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for inviting me into this deeply meaningful conversation that we need to continue having. Like I said earlier on, in South Africa, I don't think there are organizations that can highlight themselves as a benchmark of understanding neurodiversity. I think as a country, we're still taking the steps to understand it. And that's why the Employment Equity Act amended this year is a game changer. And they've actually increased the percentage as well, which was quite exciting, that we need to hire more differently abled employees. So it's been an honor to be part of this dialogue. That's not only timely, but it's transformative. And like I said, I've got a nephew who is autistic, so this is something that is close to my heart, and also professionally. And I'm grateful for the space that you've created, and to explore this with empathy, with courage, and curiosity. We need to continue having these mindset shifting conversations. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great weekend, a great
Yes.
Friday. I know it's
Thank you
Monday.
Thank you to Career Indaba as well for creating this platform. It's really an honor to participate on a platform of this magnitude and having this conversation.
Great stuff. I'm about to, and it's month end Friday, so I'm not going to even tell you to have a good weekend yet. I don't know if you're going to have a good weekend, but try to.
You too.
Thanks, eh?
All right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye, Ellen.
Bye.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's change makers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. Career Talk, because the future of work starts with you.
That was Mobatu Tlale. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Let me just switch this off. Technology is interfering. So that was Mobatu Tlale talking about neurodivergent talent, very close to my heart, very close to everyone at the moment in terms of the workplace. We've got skills that are untapped. We've got future leaders that need to be developed. We are, Africa and South Africa is open to diversity, inclusion, and business, and we need different skill sets and brand ambassadors of career, the different careers as well. So thanks to Career Indaba for allowing me this slot and for engaging with subject matter experts on this topic as well. We have our next speakers. We've got Eugene Smith. That's our next speaker. We're having a neuro morning, guys. So the next speaker is Eugene Smith. He's a neuroscience specialist. Okay, and he calls himself a neuroscience chief insights catalyst, which is very interesting. So we will be talking about neurodiversity from a different perspective, and neurodiversity and inclusion from a transformative perspective, from a neuroscience-backed leadership, basically. And this is not about neurodivergence specifically. This is about mind shift set change, developing leaders, young leaders, developing seasoned leaders that need to turn the narrative around from a leadership, capacitation, teamwork perspective as well. We're talking about reflective self-awareness and also progressive leadership in a changing globally connected world. where we have different generations, we have different age groups. We've got younger, robust leaders. We've got younger, robust specialists that are having to lead and drive dynamic teams across the country, across the world. So I'm really looking forward to Eugene's chat with me. He's also one of the consultants for Stellenbosch Business Institute. He's a seasoned professional, so join us on that. If we could take a short break, a comfort break for that would be fantastic, and I will join you shortly as we prepare for Eugene, and maybe just tell you a little bit more about the speakers later on. We're talking about gender equality. We're also talking about industries that have been navigated by predominantly male dominated environments, where we've got dynamic African females, whether it's in the chemical sector, whether it's in the mining sector, where employment equity talent has had to navigate their way through and transform and be successful in these industries that were not that easy to survive in. We will also be talking about a professional who is focusing on artisan talent or technical talent, where there's a shortage in the mining sector. I'm looking forward to that session as well, because what we do have is a lack of technical skills, specifically in the mining sector, which is one of our showstoppers in the country in terms of resources. And we've had, previously where mines have closed in areas because they can't be managed. So I'm looking forward to talking to this gent later on. So guys, if we can just take a short break and I'll join you soon. Thanks.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table, where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. Career Indaba Channel, the voice of Africa's labor market. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Hi guys, okay, so we're back on this Friday, the 31st of October, and with the Career Indaba Power Pact Career Talks. My name is Ellahi. We've had the fantastic Mobatu Tlale, who spoke about neurodivergent talent, and we will be going to a slot shortly with Eugene Smith, who will be talking about neurodiversity-backed leadership. Not neurodiversity specifically, but neuroscience-backed leadership. Sorry about that. We're having a Neuro Friday. And the boardroom, you know, if I look at it, the reason why I've stepped out of the boardroom today to be part of this was to actually be part of this exciting Career Indaba Career Impact Week. We're so involved with our job descriptions in our offices, doing our stuff. We don't share some of our insights and our knowledge. And I'd like to thank the Career Indaba, and I would like to thank the organizers for doing this. You know, it's a plug in and play. It's awesome. It's interactive as well. And I think it's a good curtain raiser for the actual, you know, expo as well. So well done, guys. I think this is very progressive and revolutionary as well. Well done to the team there. My very good friend Connie is part of the team. So I wish you could join us and you could see her at some point. So in 5 minutes time, we've got Eugene joining us. And then we've got some other speakers from 11 o'clock till about 12, talking about gender equality, talking about youth development, with technical skills specifically. I think it's in the mining sector. I don't want to give up too much. Let's leave it exciting. Eugene's session, and then we've got dynamic, robust females that are making it happen in predominantly male environments as well, in the chemical industry, in the technical industry, which is really, really awesome. Very comforting to see that. As a recruiter for many years, I find that when it comes to equity talent in industries that have been challenging previously, we find it difficult. And it's so comforting to see employment equity, female talent specifically, taking it on in the chemical industry, the mining industry, the logistics, the production, the FMCG industry, the technical stuff. That is amazing to see. So I'm looking forward to my last slot as well today. Eugene, I will introduce you to him online when he gets here. It will be a few minutes time. I like how he has integrated neuroscience as a coach, as an executive coach, in terms of mindset change, mind shift change, in terms of self-reflection, in terms of the tools that they give, leaders that are fully equipped to lead a business and to manage people, but to change the narrative from a leadership perspective, from an inclusion perspective as well. Okay, so it's all neuroscience backed. And if you don't know what neuroscience is, initially when I heard about neuroscience, I thought, my God, what is this? Do I have to go and study something medical to understand what this is? And it's actually not medical. It's about it's about your thinking preferences. It's about how you apply your knowledge. It's about how you change the way you manage people. It's about how you create, bring out the best in your talent by understanding how people think, and by resonating with people, by leading and mentoring as well. So the world of work is changing, guys. We're globally connected now. We have to make way for young talent that come in with very different value propositions and ideas. We have to make way for people that think differently. Mabatu's talk about neurodivergent talent tells us that we've got untapped skills. We've got amazing future leaders and brand ambassadors that have always been boxed because of thinking differently or being wired differently. Now we celebrate it. Now we are inclusive of it. Now we understand it as well. And the one thing I'd like to see myself is when you see ADHD, the last D is always disorder or something disorder, is to take away the word disorder and to replace it with something more progressive and more inclusive. But because the word disorder in itself, I don't know if it's a medical terminology, but the word disorder in itself marginalizes people. And that's the brand you walk around with, So that's the one thing I would like to see myself as well. As I said, it's close to my heart. I've got a son who's is it neurodivergent, autistic on the spectrum, or whatever the case is. And I've learned so much. My friend Kanye was asking me this morning, Alan, I've seen such a different side of you. What is it, Cape Town? What is it? And it's actually my son. My son is my inspiration. He is a 15-year-old dynamic ball of fire. That's just amazing. And I learned so much about human beingness from him. But anyway, it's 10 o'clock. Let's see if Eugene's joined us yet. Or do we have more time for Eugene to join us? Let me just check. I'm going to just turn my video off. If you can just run an ad.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table, where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you.
Good morning, everyone. We're back. This is Ellahi, your host for this morning. And I would love to welcome my guest, special guest, Eugene Smith. Eugene, can you hear me clearly? Can you see me?
I can.
Okay, if I look like I'm about to fall over into a lake, it's my background, the wall. You look like you're about to jump off a cliff there.
Not quite.
Eugene, thank you so much for making yourself available. I appreciate your time. I just told everyone, I told all the guests this morning, our audience, should I say, that we're having a neuro morning, because our previous speaker, we were talking about neurodivergent talent in the workplace,
Right.
and Mabatu Tlali was talking about neurodivergent talent, and it's one of the value propositions she's really driving in the corporate sector as well. So we now have Eugene Smith, who is the Chief Insights Catalyst. I love it. I love the terminology, and Eugene, I must say, I like the play on words for your company's name called Insight with the C. If I notice that, Insight. Hey, am I correct in saying that?
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you for saying for joining us. Eugene is I would say a neuroscience expert. I've enjoyed my conversations with him. Eugene's got a fantastic presentation for us, which we're looking forward to seeing, and then some time for questions after that, Eugene, if that's okay with you. I know that you've got quite a busy morning, and I appreciate your time. I know you're coaching, and I know you're doing a lot of stuff. I'm looking forward to you sharing your wisdom from a neuroscience perspective. And I was telling the audience previously that when I heard about this neuroscience, I thought to myself, gee whiz, do I need to have a medical qualification to understand what this is all about now, and because there was things like pathways and things like that as well. And, I just think the whole neuroscience concept is so revolutionary. It's so progressive. I'm a brain profile practitioner myself, but the neuroscience aspect of it is amazing. And I'm so glad that we can integrate that into the workplace, into leadership development, into future leadership development, and also into general working culture. So when we talk about inclusion, it's not only about race, age, gender, or anything like that. Now, it's about thinking preferences. It's about, how we differ and how we can be celebrated as thinkers, as strategists, as, things like that as well. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Right.
I don't know if your presentation is going to be shown. Here we go. Wow, I love that. I love that. So Eugene, I'll hand over to you to go for it. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going to sit back, enjoy, and relax.
Right. Thanks, Alan. And morning, everybody. So Alan asked me to speak a little bit around the notion of neurodiversity, gender bias, etc., and to bring a little bit of a neuroscience perspective to the conversation. So the first thing that I want to just say thank you. It's really a privilege to be with you today and to speak to a topic that's not only close to my heart, but increasingly vital to the success of modern organizations. So diversity and neurodiversity and gender diversity in employment is becoming more and more important. So as we stand at the intersection of technological advancement and global connectivity and evolving social consciousness, the way that we define talent, inclusion, and success is completely being reimagined. And I wanted today explore a little bit how embracing diversity, especially neurodiversity and gender diversity, is not only a moral imperative, but really a strategic advantage. And in 2025, diversity and inclusion is no longer optional initiatives, they're core business strategies. And companies that embed inclusion into their operations outperform their peers in innovation, in employee engagement, and also in things like profitability. So just a couple of facts around some of the success stories of companies that have taken the leap to have formal neurodiversity inclusive programs. In JP Morgan, they started a neurodivergent employee program a while ago. And the fascinating thing is that they claim that the neurodivergent employees outperform the other employees by a margin of between 90 to 140% in higher productivity. That's interesting. So SAP also reported that one of their neurodivergent employees created this fascinating tool that saved them $40 million. So what are we missing? If we see some of these statistics coming around and some of these success stories, what are we missing and what's holding us back, and why is it important that we understand how the brain actually acts that potentially holds us back? So if you think about neurodiversity, we understand that somewhere between 15 to 20% of the global population is neurodivergent. Now, that's quite a large proportion. And if you think about that, then potentially 15 to 20% of all organizations have neurodivergent people working for them. But what does that mean? And how do they actually capitalize on that success? So if you look at some of the characteristics associated and unique strengths associated with neurodivergent people, then we understand that they're very good at pattern recognition, have phenomenal memory, high levels of creativity, good systems thinking and out-of-the-box thinking. But many neurodivergent employees face stigma, misunderstanding, exclusion, and high levels of unemployment. So it's time that we understand that there's something that we potentially need to do to overcome some of the stigma and misunderstanding and exclusion. So let me take a little bit of a dive into this from a neuroscience perspective and just give you a little bit of an understanding of some of the things that neuroscience potentially brings to us from a deeper understanding of why we have this notion of bias and exclusion and etc. And it's It's a little bit of a biological construct, if you like. So the first thing that I want to just focus on is the reticular activation system, or the RAS for short. It's a part of our brain, the lower part of our brain, sitting in the brain stem predominantly, which acts as a filter between our conscious and our subconscious and unconscious mind. And it only allows what's important and of interest to the conscious mind into our awareness. So we refer to the RAS as being the first filter that data passes through when entering the brain, and then it receives input from our sensory nerves that come from the nerve endings in our eyes, in our mouth, our face, our skin, our muscles, our internal organs. And this filtering process is basically called sensory gating. So in a modern world, when we look at some of the research, we understand that we are potentially exposed to up to 11 billion bits of information per second. I mean, it's absolutely insane. We can't even imagine being hit by 11 billion bits of information per second. What we understand from the RAS and the filtering process is that approximately 2,000 of those bits actually enter our brain. The rest just goes missing. So we actually don't even see it. But the 2,000 or so that we actually acknowledge, we only have a small percentage that we actually let through into our consciousness. And that is let through into our consciousness because of the way we've primed what it is that we believe, what it is that we want to see. So it's driven by that notion of comfort. I often use the simple example of when you want to buy a new vehicle, you all of a sudden identify a brand or maybe even a color, etc. And all of a sudden you start seeing those vehicles all over the road. That's the RAS that's now unconsciously identifying that vehicle and actually popping it into your conscious mind. Now we've only got one focus, and the RAS helps from an unconscious perspective to drive that focus. So what is it that we see when we're looking at hiring an employee? What is it that we see when we're actually managing a neurodivergent person? What is our RAS driving it? And how does the organization itself prime our RAS to see certain things and to miss others? So if we set a specific intention so that we actually consider doing something specific like a goal, then what we do is all of a sudden we open up our thinking and what we see around that. So we filter for what it is that we set as a potential target. It helps to refocus our thinking. It even goes as far as improving our decision making, and it enhances our ability to potentially achieve a goal. So how do organizations set our RAS to overcome some of the neurodivergent and gender biases and exclusions in our organizations? And what should we as leaders do to actually overcome that? So I want to take a little bit of a step further into the neuroscience and just talk about the way that fear and anxiety actually shows up. Now, anxiety in the modern world, and we refer to the modern world as being a Barney world. I don't know if you've heard the acronym before, but the B is for brittle, the A is for anxious, the N is for non-linear, and the I is for incomprehensible. Now, if you look at the anxiety levels, if you look at surveys across the globe, we see very, very high levels of anxiety across the globe, to the extent that they argue that up to 65% of people in employment have potentially suffered some sort of burnout in the last 3 to 4 years. Now, that's a phenomenal number. And if that holds true, then how does that impact the way in which we respond to the potential risk of somebody competing for our job, somebody that's potentially more productive than what we are? Threat and anxiety can be certain or uncertain, can be real or imagined, and it drives this whole process of creating a threat or a defensive reaction in about a half a second. So our conscious thinking instrument, our prefrontal cortex, our ability to do analytical thinking, etc., is compromised when the defensive system takes over. So the dilemma with this is that our brain is set up to keep us alive primarily. So we're constantly seeking threat or danger up to 5 times every single second. And think about that. As I said that, you probably looked for threat or danger in my demeanor, my facial expression, my voice, my tone, etc., etc. And that potentially makes me go into my defensive reaction, which then shuts down my ability to consciously explore something. So when my defensive reaction takes over, it is a protective reaction, which then potentially brings out even more all of those biases and beliefs and questions that I have around things like neurodiversity. So I like to use this phrase, and it goes like this. It says, the fears that we create unconsciously or deliberately will limit our own thinking as well as the thinking of our followers. So if we're a leader in an organization, we potentially impact the people around us with our own fears, our own beliefs, our own reactions. And that drives then the culture of the organization to a large extent. So how does an organization change its culture, understanding some of these things? And then it gets even a little bit more complicated, particularly when we start looking at things like bias and perception. So to understand the problem, we must first understand the concept of intersectionality. And this is the idea that multiple aspects of a person's identity, like gender, race, neurotype, all overlap and create a distinct experience of discrimination. So we don't see things as they are, but rather as we are. And because we don't see things as they are, we miss some of the reality, and our RAS only allows into our thinking some stuff that is driven by our beliefs, etc. So biases then are unconscious drivers that influence how we see the world. Now, therein lies a little bit of a problem, because it's very difficult to see our own bias, but it's quite easy to identify the bias in somebody else. So if I'm looking at managing and leading in a different way and including more people, then I need to do something to help fix the natural bias that sits in the organization, that permeates the organization. And we can reduce bias in systems and teams, but we need a process to do so. We need to agree on what the natural organizational bias is and how we have enforced that behavior through our culture, and then focus on it and look at how we shift those beliefs. So biases are extremely difficult to deal with, because they really developed all the way from our childhood. They become implicit rather than explicit. So implicit is the natural, automatic, mental shortcutting process that fosters around our worldview and our beliefs, that fits very much into our subconscious and unconscious level of thinking. So it's automatic. There's also a natural predisposition for people to believe that they're less biased than others. And because we believe we're less biased than others, we don't spend enough time reflecting on what bias is showing up, how are we as leaders showing up, and how do we shift that to ensure that we actually have a more inclusive leadership culture. So we also don't question our values. We believe our values are right. If we don't spend enough time reflecting on how our values are driving how we show up, then change can't take place. And if I am not reflecting on driving that change, then nothing changes. So we then move backwards, and we limit our own beliefs and our behaviors, and exacerbate and drive our blind spot, which then potentially even becomes stronger. So what about all of this then in the workplace? So interestingly, if you look at some research, you see that if a male is direct, focused, confident, they're often praised and seen as competent. Whereas if a female displays exactly the same characteristics, they're seen as bossy and less competent. Now, and that's a natural bias that permeates most of the world. How do we change that? How do we create a shift? And if we look at neurodiverse employees, then often we see them as difficult and different, and they need special support. So if we employ them, we've got to build some structures in the organization to support them. We see them potentially as low in productivity and less capable. And sometimes we see them as tokenized geniuses that lack practical skills. So can you see that if this is the way that we actually move through our organization and create a culture that looks at people like this, how limiting it is for us to actually move forward and to actually become an organization that's got an inclusive leadership capability that brings everybody into the fold. So in our professional lives, bias will impact things like our interaction and our relationships with colleagues. It will impact the way in which we make decisions. I see often biases in organizations that drive groupthink as a bias, for instance, where if a leader says something and I've been thinking about it, then I jump to it and go, yes, no, that's the right way to go. And it shuts down the thinking. So we surrender our critical thinking to somebody that's more senior or more charismatic or more likable. And then we stop doing critical thinking and we accept some of these biases that play out. So workplace culture plays a big role. Team dynamics is impacted. Leadership ethos is impacted. Hiring decisions. So if you look at some of the research around bias in hiring decisions, when I'm looking at recruiting somebody, I have a potential of a thing like a halo bias, where I potentially go, well, this person comes from the same school that I was at, or plays the same sport that I used to play, etc. Therefore, they must be better than the other people. And all of that happens in the unconscious bit. So we have to develop a process to overcome some of those biases, and selection panels, etc. Having a competency-based framework helps to overcome some of that. But then we've got to actively drive and implement those processes so that the decisions become fairer. Right, so I want to move on to how social or psychological safety in the organization potentially drives our performance and our delivery. Now, the framework that you're seeing in front of you is what I refer to as the 4 pillars of social safety from a neuroscience perspective in organizations. So the first one that I want to talk about is the notion of bonding. Now, we don't spend enough time in the modern world really bonding with people, particularly in organizations. We say, hi, how are you? But I don't really care what your response is. I'm not really listening to what your response is. And if you ask me, I've got a standard response which I'm going to give you, and you don't really care what it is that I'm going to say. So we've got to slow down a little bit and really connect with people again, really bond with the people in our teams. And that has the ability to enhance and release more oxytocin, which is related to trust and bonding, and also starts helping to get us into our conscious thinking. Now, it's also the love hormone. So people only associate it with that, but it's got a far bigger role in terms of creating that glue in the team and the starting process of creating the glue in the team. When we create a process of real belonging where people feel that they matter, that they're important, that they're part of the bigger thing, that what they say is heard and respected, and that we explore the thinking positively. Then we have an additional release of dopamine, for instance. Now, dopamine is seen as the feel-good neurotransmitter. And once we get a release of both oxytocin and dopamine, we start getting higher levels of potential conscious thinking, which takes us out of that mental shortcutting space. It helps us to start potentially looking at things like, how do we create inclusive leadership culture? If we then also develop a strong identity with the organization, with the team that you're in, and deliberately create that sense of identity, we then have a association of additional serotonin, which is strongly associated with confidence and assertiveness, and also resilience and pro-social behavior, positive moods, fosters trust, social cohesion, manages conflict better. So it sets up our brain to actually drive far higher social cohesion and inclusivity in our teams. Only then do we create a process where we can do meaningful and purposeful work, and we include everybody to do meaningful and purposeful work. So how do we deliberately then increase some of these neurotransmitters? What do we do to actually grow it? Now, it's actually quite simple. Proper sleep, at least between 7 to 9 hours every night, helps me to get my brain more relaxed, to detoxify it properly. Proper exercise, so sufficient exercise to get oxygen-rich blood to my brain. That starts helping to reduce stress and increases my capacity to be more open to it. Mindfulness practices. How many organizations have adopted and actually researched what mindfulness practices and positive affirmation practices do? Now, if you're in an organization that doesn't practice mindful meditation, then it's going to be more difficult to actually try and shift the culture. And mindful meditation is one of the most powerful processes that you can use to help shift the mood and the capability in the organization. When we start using mindful practices, we actually build biological resilience. So mindful meditation, if you look at some of the research, if we do mindful meditation for just 20 minutes a day, after just 8 weeks, we have a restructuring of the insula, which is associated with cognition or exploration of emotions into our physical sensations. So the insula is then involved in the process of taking an emotion and giving us that physical sensation. After 8 weeks of meditation, it takes that emotion and shifts it from a negative perspective to a positive perspective. Even things like anger, we then embrace from a more positive perspective, and we actually develop some of that biological resilience. So some of the other things that we also see a lot in the modern world is when people are stressed, they get into what we refer to as doom scrolling, reading all the bad news and constantly just flicking through the phone. So avoiding those sort of processes and starting to live a little bit differently helps us to move forward. Now, if you look at the psychological safety matrix that Amy Edmondson developed, then we talk about psychological safety or social safety on the one side and standards on the other side. Now, we all want organizations that become learning and high performance zones where everybody in the business can actually thrive and help the organization to thrive and grow. That requires both high standards and high levels of psychological safety. So we've got to explore how we create deliberately organizations where people are able to learn together with us when they make a mistake, where they're able to challenge a leader when they don't agree with them without fear of repercussion or losing their jobs, where we have full inclusivity and bonding processes and belonging processes that are deliberately practiced, consciously practiced. That's not just an unconscious little paying attention to it, but a deliberate and focused activity that drives those sort of processes. In most organizations, we've got fairly high standards. If we've got low psychological safety, we create that anxiety zone and we perpetuate that defensive reaction. We perpetuate that process of being even more biased against people that are different from us, whatever that looks like or feels like. If we have low standards in the organization, you can see we then create either comfort or apathy. Now, that's clearly not where we want to be in the modern world. So what? So what does this all mean? Now, a lot of organizations that I touch have a process where they hire for diversity. It solves nothing. Hiring for diversity on its own is a fruitless activity because the culture of the organization needs to shift. So unless we redefine leadership in such a way that we go beyond diversity to create inclusive leadership and to identify and define what inclusive leadership means for us as an organization and how I as a leader need to show up so that I create inclusivity throughout. So the path to innovation in any organization is both inclusivity and high levels of social safety. When you create high levels of challenger safety in your organization, where people are able to challenge and bring their ideas, even if they're half-baked, it doesn't mean we accept every idea. It means we explore ideas and think about them and explore whether it's worth implementing and practicing or experimenting with some of the ideas. When we create that level of challenger safety, only then do we enter into the innovation and creativity zone in an organization. Up until then, innovation and creativity remains the domain of a very few people in the organization, and it restricts and hampers us. So we also need to implement bias detection and mitigation processes and transformation practices. If we don't have a transformative practice that explores and develops a culture of trying to erode as much as possible bias by detecting it and dealing with it, we won't move forward. And then mindfulness practice. If we don't actually explore what mindfulness means, how we implement it, what we do with it, we won't be able to move forward. So all of this requires cultural transformation. It requires that you work on a process to shift the culture in a sustainable way. And that takes a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of consistent follow through over a period of time to actually inculcate and drive a new culture. It's not just a little training program. So I hope I've shared with you enough information from a brain perspective, as well as my views from a perspective of what we need to do to ensure that we actually incorporate successfully a more inclusive culture, that diversity can actually come alive, where diversity can actually give us the results that we want, that we've employed them for. So, so that brings me to the end of what I wanted to share with you formally. And Alam, I guess it's an opportunity for anybody if they want to ask questions, or if you want to ask me some questions.
Thank you so much, Eugene. That was very interesting. I was taking copious amounts of notes while you were talking. I hope it wasn't a dead giveaway. And I love some of the terminology as well. You've actually simplified something that is very daunting to me. So thank you for that. I can see your passion and your enthusiasm when you talk about it, and you've really cascaded it down very nicely for us. Thank you very much. Let me sit straight up. My boss in the background tells me I should watch my posture. So not really. No, I tend to slouch. Eugene, just in terms of, I'd like to know about your personal journey as well. So this was very contextual. You actually summarized it very nicely. And I think, the whole concept is very revolutionary. It's very progressive because business is changing. People are changing. Thinking preferences are changing as well. We've got young diversity. We've got people that are seasoned in their professions that need to be, capacitated and developed, and think laterally from a leadership and from neuroscience perspective as well. So you've covered all of that as well. And I like the point you made about, I think what I grasped from what you were saying is that it's not a one size fits all approach. It's not a one size fits one, and it's customized, it's got to be customized and done accordingly. The comment you make about, you recruit or you employ for diversity, it doesn't stop there. There's more to it. But I'd like to know more. Can you tell us about your journey and what has shaped your perspective on this topic you spoke about? I'd like to know that because, if I look at, we've spoken before, I look at your background, you've been very much in the change management, OD world. You worked for very big, large international pharmaceutical organizations. And it seems, and you've done, you're quite an academic as well, but you don't come across as a typical academic. Thank you for the very nice, brief presentation. Okay, so tell me about, your journey. Back to my question, a bit about your journey and what shaped your perspective on this topic.
Right. Thanks for the question, Alan. So my journey started early on from a belief that my father inculcated in me that you had to be employed. And consequently, I started building a journey of being employed by organizations. I was fortunate enough that I rapidly, at a young age, was appointed as a director in a large listed organization that operated very much in the mining industry, but also had a fast-moving consumer goods division where I was employed. And I became a director in that fast-moving consumer goods in one of the divisions there. And I started through that process having to drive transformation of organizations, which started tweaking my interest in terms of how do you really create sustainable shift in any cultural environment. Through the work that I was doing there, I was then headhunted by these two pharmaceutical giants that had a joint venture where the organization had technically become bankrupt, and they asked me to come in and assist in terms of trying to turn the organization around. So at the time, myself and the CEO were appointed quite close to each other, and we then started a process of trying to shift that organization. But we turned the business around, and we managed then to do a management buyout of the business where we became owners. But through that process, I kept on, and we kept on as an executive team working on how do we create sustainable behavioral shift in our directors so that we can actually drive cultural shift in the organization. And 2 or 3 days after we would come back from this executive breakaway, I'd find my colleagues flicking back into their own behaviors, and I'd catch myself doing the same. And I kept on going, so we've agreed on doing things differently, but I'm failing. How can I expect my colleagues to follow through when I even can't? So I started exploring a lot of that thinking, and that thinking started shifting my thinking around what will I do with my career in the future to make an impact and help others see how we can change. So at a stage then I resigned from the organization, sold my shares, and started living more in an organization development space. And during that time, I became aware of brain-based coaching, which is neuroscience-based coaching methodology. I went on a program. I started liking what I heard about the brain, and then I went back to university and I studied neuroscience a little bit more formally. And through that process, I started asking myself questions like, so what do we do to actually create this sustainable shift? And I realized that a large part of what helps us to shift is to bring from the unconscious or subconscious mind our ideas to conscious awareness. And once they're in conscious awareness, then to create actions that link to that. Okay. And then that failed too. Then I started asking myself the question, so what's wrong with the actions that doesn't get me or others motivated in my coaching practice to really shift? So I started creating a structure of what those actions should look like, and I call them ideas.
Okay.
So the I is for inspirational. If I'm sitting in a space, my favorite part in the world, my favorite beverage, celebrating the success of the action I've set, and imagine sitting there and can't bring up an emotion associated with that, it's not inspirational for me, and I probably won't do it. So I've then got to polish it to the point where I actually have emotional attachment to that idea so that it's inspirational for me. Then I start looking at the next bit, which is deliberate, which is if I don't have a deliberate intent, and if I ask myself a question where I'm 100% honest and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely am I to execute on this action in the time that I've set? If I answer an 8 or less, I won't do it. If it's a 9, I've got to work to make it a 10. If it's a 10, then potentially. Then can I execute it? Have I got the resources and capability, which is the executable? And only then do I develop an action that's smart. So for me, it's that process. And when I do that for long enough, I rewire my brain at the unconscious level and start changing that behavior at an unconscious level. There's a lot of talk around the world around the notion of learning and unlearning. I'm of the mindset that we can't unlearn. We can only learn new habits, new behaviors, which then creates new neural pathways over time. And I need to practice those new habits and neural pathways for a substantial amount of time, probably 8 to 12 months before I start creating change. So when I work in organizations around transformation, I work very hard with the executives to continuously work on how do we develop and continuously reflect on how we are showing up and what we need to shift. That's what brings the transformation, nothing else.
Okay.
That's my personal bias and personal view. Okay, so I declare my bias up front and I own it.
That is excellent perspective, and I'm mindful of time, Eugene, because I know you've got another commitment in 2 minutes' time. But you know what I pick up from this is it's all about self-reflection. You mentioned something very, very pertinent earlier on in terms of defensive reaction, and I'm assuming that's probably your critical thinking. We go into the critical thinking box. It's like this needs to be done from this is how we need to deliver, and then we don't self-reflect in terms of how we're doing it. What is our approach? How are we affecting the people around us? Is it building a team? Is it breaking a team from a leadership perspective? Is it all about the numbers? Is it all about the revenue? Is it all about, but where's the people? Am I understanding how people think, work, and am I identifying the talent that I have and the value they can add to me? So it's all about self-reflection, and I think it was awesome engaging with you, and I really want to thank you for your time, because I know you're very busy as an executive coach, and so I really want to thank you for your time and indulging us as well, and sharing your passion and your vision with us on this topic as well. I just have a very quick last question. I'm hoping we can just take a few seconds. So often, how do you assess this? And if you can just summarize that for me, because you would need to, when you're engaging with people, like myself, for example, if I was going to embark on a journey where I need to self-reflect, how would I know this is where I am, this is where I need to be, and what's the journey? So I know from a coach perspective, you will take me there, you will neuroscience me, you may help me self-reflect and things like that. But how do you identify where the person's at, what the deal breakers or derailers are in the gaps, and where they need to be as such?
Thanks for the question, Alan. So I use a tool called Lumina Learning, and it has various different depths of analysis that we do. And it also has a strong foundation in neuroscience, understanding that we're not people that are boxed, but that we actually operate across a spectrum of paradoxes. And we show up differently in those paradoxes. So I use a basic personality assessment that starts giving us some of those paradoxes and also points out my overextensions, which go potentially to the defensive reaction. Then I link that to a Lumina leader. How do I show up as a leader? And a Lumina leader 360, which gives me the feedback from the group, which then goes to my blind spot and now gives us some real stuff that we can work with. And then also potentially a Lumina emotion, where we actually understand what my own emotional deficit is and how I build that. And the key thing is that the more analytical development and thinking we do, the more likely we are to blunt our empathy pathway. So we need to develop our empathy pathway separately from our analytical thinking. And that's often what executives and people do as they grow, is they get more and more involved in solving others' problems, and they are then less and less likely to see the impact on others. Now, there's obviously exceptions to every rule. So I'm talking about a bell curve, a normal distribution. And most of us need to work on both of those pathways deliberately, critically, and through reflection. You cannot build your empathy pathway without deep reflection on your impact on other people. I hope that answers the question.
No, that answers it very much. It's very good for the positive skeptics, the people that think about it skeptically, positively, or whatever the case is. So that's great, because there's context. Eugene, I'm going to let you go on this Friday. I know you've got another commitment. So I thank you for your time. Audience, guests, this was Eugene Smith, Chief Insight Catalyst. And I say the neuroscience guru as well. My name is Ellahi. Stay tuned to Career Indaba. We shall see you soon. And we will be pausing for a short break. Eugene, have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, Alan. You too. Cheers.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table, where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. Hello Africa! Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce.
Can you hear me, guys? Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is Ellahi from the Career Indaba CareerTalk. Stay tuned. I hope you've had a power-packed morning thus far. On the 31st of October, Friday, we've had Mabatu Tlale from Zida, who's spoken about neurodivergent talent, which was really, really interesting from an employer's perspective. Then we had Eugene Smith talk about leadership-backed neurodiversity, or neurodiversity that is leadership back, whatever it is. I'll go back. Neurodiverse ADHD person trying to remember the words and the play on words. So it was very much an insightful morning to hear about neurodivergent talent, neurodiversity in the workplace. I found it very interesting. Myself being a recruiter and a talent specialist, it gave me very different perspectives in terms of how much work actually has to be done. And I would like to thank Career Indaba and my wonderful organizing colleague, Kani, for giving me these slots with subject matter experts as well. Our next speaker, our next guest is Duduzile Morobe. Okay, she'll be joining us shortly. Dudu is the CEO of Zamani Chemicals, which is I'm very excited about this one because I see they're based in Benoni and I'm a Benoni boy myself, okay? A fully Black-owned and Black-managed chemical manufacturing company in Benoni, okay? I love that Dudu has taken on the industry in the chemical, I'm gonna call it chemical warfare. And what stands out is that she recently won the Business Woman of the Year Award, which is the BBQ Award, the Black Business Quarterly Awards in 2025. How awesome is that? A predominantly male environment, a predominantly not very easy accessible to most people. She made it happen. And she's taken over the legacy from her father as well, from what I understand. But we're going to talk about her. And we're going to get more insights on that as well. And we will congratulate her online. I think that's an awesome achievement as well. So in terms of what's close to my heart as well, is when professionals choose industries that are not easy, where they have to have uncomfortable conversations, where they have to prove themselves. They've chosen not to be in a comfort zone. They've put themselves in situations and companies where they need to disrupt, and in a robust way. They have to take on seasoned industry professionals. There is almost pretty much maybe an old boys club, and you disrupt and you transform and you reinvent. And this is something that I admire about someone like Dudu. And I'm looking forward to chatting to her as well. So in terms of technical skills and how she's applied it from a leadership perspective, maintaining their 100% Black-owned status as the company, and starting off at grassroots level. I mean, she pretty much started off at grassroots level, and she basically is running the show at the moment. And how awesome is that? Okay. Is Dewey ready to join us? Let me just check with the organizers. We've got 3 minutes left. I just want to check if my colleague is available to join us. I don't know if you can see that on my screen. There's a whole lot of sparkles that just went over the screen. Dudu, can you hear me, Dudu?
Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning, Dudu. How are you doing? I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you.
Good morning. Dudu, can you hear me now? Hi, Dudu. Okay, so...
Good morning,
hi,
Ellen.
Dudu,
How
can
are
you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you know what? I
can hear you.
I think this was done deliberately by the organizers to test our to challenge our agility skills. What do you think?
I think my signal on my Yeah,
Okay,
man.
okay. Let's just let's just pursue. Dudu, thank you so much for
You
joining
are
us.
breaking, you constantly break, but yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. There might be a little bit of a lag in terms of my
Thank you for
communication.
having
It's
me.
possibly your connection, but let's just make this work. We are South Africans and we are book smart and street smart. Are you there? Dudu's frozen.
We make everything work,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Dudu, thank you so much for your time. Okay. I first of all want to congratulate you on your big win. Okay. The Businesswoman of the Year title is no small feat. Okay. Wow, well done. Well done. Is no small feat. Okay. When you heard your name announced that night, what was the first thought that ran through your mind? When you heard your name announced that first night, what was the first thought that ran through your mind, Dudu? Congratulations.
Because the win wasn't just for me. Immediately, I thought decisions, the sweat from my team, the long hours and so forth. Incredible team who supports me all the time and who believes in our purpose. And it was for every young woman.
Okay. Okay. So basically, Dudu, for our audience, okay, Dudu Morobe is the CEO of Zamani Chemicals, a fully black-owned and black-managed chemical manufacturing company based in Benoni. As I said, Benoni is my hood. I'm a Benoni boy, Dudu, as well. Dudu's journey, basically, you've worked in business leadership in multiple sectors, from financial to
Okay.
agriculture. Zamani Chemicals was part of a succession plan, mentored and coached by your dad, and you built on his legacy. Well done. And why that's close to my heart as well is that my daughter works with me. I'm so glad when she left university, she chose to work with me, and she's been with me for a few years, and I want her to take on with my legacy. So well done there.
Thank
Um,
you.
what I'm very impressed about Dudu is, apart from the technical skill that you have to cope in this industry, your leadership and strategic focus, your leadership philosophy is phenomenal. Okay, your achievements, you've expanded manufacturing capabilities, you've sorted out automation and infrastructure, operational excellence, maintained and strengthened the company's 100% black owned and managed status, and obviously your award. Okay, so well done there. I mean, often we have opportunities, people have opportunities, and you started off at grassroots level, and that's very humbling, and that is very revolutionary. Okay, I've
Thank
got
you.
a few questions to ask you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you have anything to say, share with us before I start with my questions? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'd like to get to know. I would love for our audience to get to know more about you as well.
Okay.
Okay, so every successful businesswoman, every successful person, but in this case, businesswoman, has a story behind her resilience. Can you tell us about a defining moment, perhaps a setback or a near failure, that shaped the way you lead today? I'm going to wait a few seconds.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's changemakers
I think
to one
Dudu's back with
table
us.
where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward.
Dudu, did you get my question?
No, please can you repeat your question? I'm so sorry, I lost you for a few seconds.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, so basically every successful person, every successful business person, in your case, every successful businesswoman has a story behind her resilience. Okay. Can you tell us about a defining moment, perhaps a setback or a near failure that shaped the way you lead today?
I mean, there's examples I can use. I see all the setbacks as not necessarily failures, but also a couple where you feel an investment is very important and you invest in something and probably the due diligence was not done properly. Therefore, in your next project, you grow from your errors and you involved other parties and expertise where you bring external. Therefore, the guidance is proper and the investment works. For instance, it's been our dream for quite a number of years. So there's been many proposals. So it took years, and it actually was my dad's dream to automate. So I took over the lines. Are fast movers that we can maximize sustainability by minimizing the wastage, dumping, automated, but it has been there. There's been many backfords throughout the planning, so it took us quite a lot of years.
Okay. Dudu, in terms of, I need to bring this up, the glass ceilings. As an African female, as a female or as a professional in a different industry, you're definitely going to get glass ceilings, even if it was under mentorship of your dad. Okay, because there's probably someone who knew more than you, who found you a threat or didn't embrace young energies, But sometimes
Absolutely. It's
women like you have to build the building first. How have you gone about creating new spaces for women in your field, basically?
like that. I mean, looking at the factory, 100% was men. They've never been led one by a woman. Threw me there for me to swim. Make those relationship work, and I had could prove, I know the what it doesn't work. A female in this industry, we've run the feminine side of her will never work here. She needs to be dirty, and absolutely, I listened, I watched, I observed. Hence, I decided I need that two-piece overall. I need those boots. I need everything. I need to run a machine. So that's how it started. Overall, was part of the team, ran, I think, about 2 machines, different lines, and slowly people started warming up to me, warming up to me. And I participated the thinking behind the team, what kind of a team is this? So over time, they warmed. I was accepted to the team, the first female accepted into the team.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And tell me, in terms of you've built a brand that stands firmly on Black ownership and technical expertise. Okay, how do you balance the pressure to perform commercially, because it's about the numbers and revenue and commercial side, and um, with your purpose of empowering others? So basically, how do you balance the pressure to perform commercially with your purpose of empowering others as well? And that whole full circle, how do you balance that? I hope you got my question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first things first is understanding who we are, what the vision is. One of the things that is big in my heart is developing internally, and also investing in women. What I've done about 3 years ago was to, when we got a new customer, we then moved to a new factory in the same premises. But I made a decision of only hiring women only, because the other factory already was dominated by men. And I felt, you know what, we need to empower women. We need
The information is coming to us. It's sitting between Western Cape and Gauteng at the moment.
what problems do they have? What solutions do they have? How do I interpret that skill space, whether it's their internal production or the end users in their market? So we are part of that supply chain. So it started with us, our people. So we invest a lot in our people. We believe in our people first, more than as and profits. It's our people first.
Okay. You're back with me. Let's talk about legacy, Dudu. What do you hope your journey represents for young women watching you, especially those dreaming of building something in industries where women are still underrepresented? Even till now, women are still underrepresented, even globally. What do you hope your journey represents for young women watching you right now?
I think it starts with leadership, level. It's something that
Oops. I'm doing this while the information is coming through.
boardrooms, and there's so much that we offer as women. I've seen it in the grooming and coaching and mentoring our women. So it starts at that level where it's the factory floor. It doesn't matter if that person came in an office or being a leader or at a blue collar level. So we start at that level where we send them to school, to training as much as we can. We involve them surprisingly, which is something that is not common out there in other boardroom talks.
our nuggets of information is coming through.
But we as Zamani, we believe that our voice is needed in the boardroom, but also in the industry and the country stage up until we all open. It just needs us to invest more in our women, put them in the right places.
Okay. So you guys were, Zamani Chemicals was nominated in 3 other categories, which is amazing. So in 3 other categories at the BBQ Awards, right? What does it say about your company's culture and how your team shows up for excellence? How did you get them there? You know, I'm sure it was a journey. And you know, what were those other 3 categories for? If you don't mind me asking.
Yes. I didn't get the question.
Okay, so you guys, Zamani Chemicals was nominated for 3 other categories at the BBQ Awards, right? And what does it say about your company's culture and how your team shows up for excellence? I hope you got that question.
Yes, you asked how we show up our team excellence.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to find out. I was asking, what does it say about your company's culture? Being selected for 3 other categories. What does it say about your company's culture and how your team shows up for excellence, basically?
It has gone.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay.
The network.
Okay. Let me ask the question again. Let's try that again. Okay. So
Okay.
you guys are nominated for 3 other categories at the awards, right?
For the 3 awards here.
Are you back with me, Dudu?
We were nominated for 3 awards, yes. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. I think the
Couldn't get
internet
that.
connection wants to go on a
Keep on
weekend already.
breaking.
It's month end. Well, I
Talk
can see
timing.
I can see a smile on your face, so you got that comment of mine. So
Bad
tell me
timing.
about the 3 other categories you guys were awarded with, and how did you achieve those nominations?
Of the year and transformation. So we were nominated for that, first runner-up for that. And then obviously the Businesswoman of the Year, we won that one. So we're nominated in 3 categories, which to us was
Okay.
being nominated in all 3. So we did there because we've always been intentional. It comes from our founders. We've always been intentional about Ekurhuleni area, where we focus on hiring mostly around our area to try and uplift the nearest communities and try and employ our people in fact, all of us are from Ekurhuleni. So we've always been intentional about that. Meeting also. So you know how it affects many other people to contribute positive. Award, yes, we were nominated for that. It came mostly from the new investment that we did, invest
information
in two silos, which is something that has never happened for Zamani. This is our first to replace our people with automation. So we tread carefully there, but also trying to not be left behind in terms of catching up. So it was quite huge. I mean, for a business medium as so what we've done is with those silos, we upped our efficiency by about forced our waste by far. I mean, we are at about 50-60%, where per annum you can already see the results where the dumping now is much less when we go for ourselves. So the dumping is less, control of chemicals has gone up. So yeah, that's where the nomination came from. So the transformation part of it came from that, and we were that award.
Can you hear me now in real time? I'd like to, my final question, finally, if the young version of Dudu, just starting out in Ekululeni, could see you now, what would she say? If the young version of Dudu, just starting out in Ekululeni, could see you now, what would she say?
If a young version to Dudu now.
Yes, your young version to you now. Not that you're not young.
I think it would be to picture yourself when you are younger, you know. We change over time, but I think it would be, you did it. It wasn't forget the purpose, the vision. Don't forget the why. Don't forget where you come from. You represent us.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. I'm sorry about the technical glitches.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think it's from my side, actually. But yes, thank you so much, Ellen, for having me. It was great having this
discussion. It was
discussion.
great meeting you and a fellow Benonian. I am so proud and super happy about Benoni. Okay, guys. So that was Dudu. I'm sorry about the lagging and the buffering on the internet. I hope you enjoyed whatever you could get out of that conversation. I'm quite inspired by Dudu, who has done such revolutionary things, and we wish Dudu a wonderful weekend and thank her for her time while she's running the business, and also wish her all the best with future awards, Dudu. We hope to see you also opening up in Cape Town at some point where I am, unless you're here already.
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival.
Thank you so much.
CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table, where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. Future-proofing skills for economic growth. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp. 15th to 16th of May 2026 is Africa's boldest sector-aligned and solution-driven career development event designed to bridge the skills gap, unlock real unemployment pathways, and future-proof talent across over 20 industries. From the boardrooms of Sandton to the villages of rural South Africa, we are pulling the entire country into one decisive moment to tackle unemployment, close the skills gap, and future-proof our workforce. Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Hi guys, welcome back. This is Ellahi on Career Indaba's talk show. And we have with us Mthobisi Zuma. Welcome, Mthobisi. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
I'm so glad. I see you in Benoni as well. Are you based in Benoni?
I'm here in Boksburg.
Okay. Now our previous guest from Zamani Chemicals was also out in the East End, and we had such internet buffering issues. So I hope yours on that side of Atlas Road actually flows more. You know, I think some of her communication.
I hope so.
So Mthobisi, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very, very glad. It's great to meet with you. If you don't mind, I'm going to be introducing you, Mthobisi, to our audience. Head of Engineering at JA Engineering, also in Benoni, Boksburg area on Atlas Road. Okay. An experienced senior product engineer with a demonstrated history of working in the mining and metals industry. Sympathies and congratulations. It's not an easy industry, okay?
Definitely.
Skilled in AutoCAD, engineering management, project engineering, and electrical engineering. Wow. Strong engineering professional with a Bachelor of Science honors focused in management of technology from the University of Pretoria, Universiteit van Pretoria. I don't know what it took. So anyway, experience with people skills, Yeah, so that's my, have I left anything out? I'd like you to take it further and just tell me about anything that I've left out, anything that you'd like to share with us as well. I think you've got a presentation that you'd like to share with us as well, to BC?
Yes, I've got a quick presentation that I would like to share.
Oh, that would be awesome. Because you know what, I'm a super awesome host, but I'm not a technical guy, so I would.
So
You go for it.
Great. Let's quickly open this.
So while we're doing that, to BC, can I ask you to please just introduce the company and yourself as well? I know I've given you my introduction, but I'd like to just introduce your company. Just extract some information for us, for our audience, about your company and yourself as well, and just a one-liner in terms of what your presentation's about, or what you're going to be chatting about, and anything that before we get into the presentation. I love the whole future of work. So if I can just hand over to you just to introduce yourself, your company, and just an overview of what your presentation's about.
Yes. So regarding that, basically JAE is a South African OEM, original equipment manufacturer. Typically in South Africa, we get our products for mining coming from overseas, mainly in Europe as well as America. China is also coming up as well now. So basically, we're competing in that space. The company is about 37 years old. It was founded by a South African. JA stands for the founder's name, which was Jerry Alexandra. And then E is, of course, for engineering. And the company started in humble beginnings, reverse engineering components for competitors like Joy. And since then, it grew up to a point where we could design, manufacture, and support our products in South Africa and also internationally. So what that means is that we've got various functions, which one of them is engineering, which I'm the one that I'm heading. There is supply chain, which is responsible for parts and sourcing. There's also sales and services, which looks after customers. And then under the shared services, that is going to be HR, finance. And the main one is, of course, operations. This is where the machines are built, assembled, and components are repaired, and brand new components are manufactured. So I would say that is the long and short of it. How we operate, we supply the coal, mainly the coal industry, mainly underground. We do let's say, about 10% of surface mining as well, components only. And the coal is then used for various operations. For example, mainly ESCOM for power generation. Some of it is used in the steel processing industry, in the iron ore space. And some of it gets shipped out to internationally. So that's what our customers does with the coal. And in the back end, our partners that then support us to achieve this is mainly the steel industry. That is why our products are 80% local sourced. So we've got 80% local content for our products, which then talks directly to the value chain downstream. So that we source locally through our partners here, some of them that are around Boxback. And then the difference of the 20% that comes internationally is going to be like items like bearings, motors, in some instances, and also electronics. So that's mainly what comes from international market. So that's really the long and short of it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you can
Which-
go. The floor is yours, brother.
Which screen am I sharing? Am I sharing the one that is slideshow, or what are you seeing from your side?
I am seeing your presentation that says future of work.
Just one slide.
Yes. Then I can see the main slide, and then on to the left there's the drop down of the different slides.
Oh, let me swing that.
You probably have to put it in presentation mode, I would say.
I have put it, but I think I'm sharing the wrong screen.
Okay.
Let's talk skills. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. Career Talk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. Career Talk, because the future of work starts with you.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so my purpose, my presentation today is going to cover, in summary, what we do and how does I'll say the young upcoming talent, how do they then latch on to that environment if they're interested in this kind of space, which is engineering, and also just sharing some, looking at the future as well, what do we see happening now and how is the future going to look like, and how do we then set up ourselves across the industry from as early as primary school all the way up to university, so to ensure that that pipeline is ready for the future and don't get left behind. So the first slide is really just focusing on JAE to say what kind of skills are dominant in our industry. So and zooming in onto the engineering function. So what I have here is that on the left-hand side, this is the engineering department that I'm working in. So we've got mechatronics engineers. This is the I would say the recent qualification where electrical and mechanical, they were measured together because these skills work very close to each other, typically in projects. So I think the institutions and industry decided to combine those two and created one degree in mechatronics. And the second one, we've got electrical engineers that then design the electrical part of the electrical portion of the machine, and our systems. And then the interesting one is, of course, the brains behind the machine, which is a control system. This is where the coding and a lot of testing and automation happens. And the biggest component of our machine then becomes the mechanical component. And I would say that in the office, we've got a very diverse makeup where we've got very young ladies, I think in their early 20s, with the qualifications that vary from BSc, West University, also different universities as well. We've got PH from UP. So that's the kind of qualifications that we have. And then, of course, we've got BTech and BTech Eng. So what simply means that if you want to be part of the of this engineering department, the top part, those are the kind of skills that you can measure on. And then the bottom one is the qualifications and that you get as a minimum entry to the space. And from the level, of course, from high school or from primary school, mathematics is at the center of engineering, because we deal with a lot of complex issues that require analysis and also at some point. English is at the center as well as part of communication, because again, you can have a best design. If you can't communicate it to customers, sometimes it does not really deliver on expectation. The next item becomes the artisans, which are equally important, because once the design is done, it's basically done on AutoCAD packages. We are using the package called Solid Edge. There's others that are called SolidWorks and also Inventor in the market. So then once it is done, it then gets converted to drawings, which then gets issued either internally to our CNC or machine shop or fabrication department, or even externally to our suppliers, which then the suppliers will produce that part as per the drawing. So for that to happen, you've got machinists in a machine shop that work with that. You've got fitting and turning, assembling of gearboxes. You've got millwrights, which is almost equivalent to mechatronics, but in the artisan space. We've got riggers that then lift the heavy machines that deal with the total 120 tons. So it's quite a heavy machine. So to move that mess around, you need qualified or specialist. Then we've got electricians that deal with the electrical part of the machine. And again, the courses that we can do is N courses from N3 to N6. And then you can also get a diploma as well. And then the subjects there is also going to be maths, science, and English. And then the field part, this is where now at the customer side or underground where the machines are operating, we've got what we call field engineers. This is advanced level of field support from field technicians. So it simply means that if the field technician does not get the fault or cannot fix the machine, the next escalation level is going to be the field engineer. Again, it's a similar qualification, and it's also the N courses, and you can also get a diploma. So just ignore that ideal forwarding components. I think that should have been also maths and science. And at the bottom here, these are the typical items that we manufacture. So if you look at, this is basically a gearbox, which is a wheel unit. It's used to, it's like your steering part of the machine. So it actually rotates in two motions, this direction, and also you can steer with it as well. And all this design is done locally here. The castings are done, also the foundries are done in South Africa. And this is another type of gearbox that we use. I will play you a video at a later stage just to show you how does everything fits together. And just to give you the current stats, as part of, I'll say, skills development, we currently have got about 28 young people here, a combination of university graduates and also college graduates. And they are split up in terms of gender. We've got 10 males and actually 18 females. However, this is not only engineering, it looks across supply chain as well as quality, other departments. So this is a commitment for JAE to contribute in the skills development, because you need to ensure that that supply of skills is continuous. So just to touch on some stats that I've looked at when it comes to universities and the output. So I just looked at for the past 3 years and look at the pass rate for our matrix and the pass rate for mathematics, because like I said, maths is at the center of all these degrees in or qualifications in engineering. And for the past 3 years, the pass rate that has been communicated is above 30%. So anything above 30, it is considered a pass. It was varying between 55% and 64%. So that simply means that the pass rate for pure maths for the last 3 years has been varying, that with the lowest being 55 and the highest being 64. And that's the pass simply means that you got anything above 30. However, if you start to zoom into that and you go for the bachelor's degree, which then you must actually achieve above 50%, and then the number actually drops to about 21.8%. So that doesn't look very good for us in the engineering space, because it simply means that we've got less young people that are ready to qualify for engineering studies. And then taking that further to universities, the KPI that is used to measure engineering throughput is basically monitoring the pass rate after 5 years, although the degree is 4 years. So the 5 year is I would say is given as a, as that year to say, if maybe a student had to repeat a course and then they're given that 1 year extra. And the stats looks like for the South African universities, it varies between 30 and 35%. So that is a bit higher than 21.8, but still doesn't look good. So simply put, it simply means that out of 100 students that enrolled, if you look at that 5 years down the line, only 30 of them will qualify, and the 70 will either be in the system or others have left the system, of course, for different reasons, which some of them include financial resources. And if you look at the 4 year throughput rate, the number drops down to about 15 to 25%. So this is what we're dealing with in South Africa, and simply shows that there's still a long way to go as a society to get those numbers up so that we're able to compete globally. So I also just did a quick research onto the future skills to say what kind of skills are we looking for in future. And I think adding a layer on what we've discussed on the last slide, digital literacy and AI fluency, you will know that these days AI is like a buzzword, but really it's been around us for years. I think it's simply accelerating quite fast in a way that I think we did not anticipate. So I think it is going to be across the board, whether in engineering or other specialties like finance. These skills remain relevant. And the second one is critical thinking and solve complex problem solving. So again, AI is basically good as what you feed it. Eventually, you'll have to analyze the data and actually understand if it talks to the issues that you are sorting out, because you're really just working with a lot of data. And I think what I've highlighted there is that it is essential for steering technology in a direction that truly solves problems and achieves ethical development outcomes. And I think the important part is also ethical, because we still need to remain ethical in what we do. AI is simply a tool, and I think as the handlers of it or the users of it, we need to ensure that whatever that then comes out as a outcome that becomes ethical, to ensure that we live the world better than we found it. And the other part is socio-economical skills. So that's basically, again, engineering or even companies like ourselves, they don't operate in isolation. We're also part of the society. So it's important, again, that whatever that we do, the technology is built for people and it's built by people. So whatever that we do must also come down to people and also the environment around us. And the most advanced tech will fail if it doesn't address the real human need, which talks like sometimes engineers get caught up a lot of data that really maybe does not deliver the value. And also empathy ensures that technology is human-centric. So at the center of this is the ability to learn very quick and also relearn, meaning whatever that you knew before may not be applicable in the next 5 years. So you need to let go of that and learn new things and continue with that. So that's a kind of a skill that one will have to also invest in. And this is a typical, I've just made like I said, I'll show you a quick clip here. But this is typical what you do here. So this is this machine is called a continuous miner. It's used to mine coal, using the bits or the peaks in front in red. So that front part will be rotating, and then the coal will be mined and it will fall on the ground and be gathered by the spade and be conveyed by that purple. We're running in the backpack, and then the material mined will then be loaded onto a hauler or a wheelbarrow for simple weight that then gets discharged on the mine belt and be sent out to surface. So this machine that we're looking at here, value-wise, when you purchase a new one, is about 70 million rand. So it's quite an expensive piece of equipment, and it's precisely because of the value that it delivers on the market as well. So having said that, I'm just going to play a quick video that just shows this machine in production. So you let me know. Are you able to see video?
I can't see video. You're on the last slide on the 17 million rand machine.
You can't see the video, ne?
No, I can't see the video now.
Okay, let me share again. Share the entire screen.
There we go. I can see something happening.
Yes. Can you see? I've paused it now.
Yes. You can press play on it. Sorry, I just put my video off so that I don't interfere with the connectivity. But you can press play and have a look.
Yeah. So before I press play, so the guys there wearing the orange overalls, those are operators. The machine is operated by a remote, and where it's starting a cut. So basically, once this cut is in here, you won't even see the machine because it will be buried underground. You'll just see the product coming out. So I'll play the video then. And both these machines are JE products, fully designed, like I said, in this office and manufactured by our factory here and serviced by us throughout its operating life.
Okay.
Okay. So that is basically it. I see I've got only a few minutes left. So that is the end of my presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mtubisi. Thank you so much to Career Indaba. Mtubisa, I thank you for sharing that. I'm very impressed to see that you are creating career pathways for young talent to explore career opportunities in the mining sectors or mining related sectors in the technical field. We've got a shortage of technical skills in this country, and I think it's good to develop that from grassroots level as well. and to create pathways. This is the backbone of our industry, of our country's economy as well. Right? So thanks
Yes,
for sharing that
definitely.
insight. Thanks for sharing that insight. And I like one thing that stands out to me is 80% sourced locally. That's good stuff. Hopefully soon it will be 100% because you'll be manufacturing the other stuff as well. So
Definitely.
well done on that. And thank you for your time. It was very, very interesting. And I'll be sure to hit you up when I visit the East Rand again. You have a fantastic weekend. And we'll take it to all the best with your business and with your sourcing of your talent.
Thank you very much. It was an honor to be part of this platform. We'll catch up again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. I've really had fun. As you can see, I really had fun. I think this was my first time on radio, TV radio, or whatever the case is. So thanks to Career Indaba for showing me that I'll actually make it very well in Broadway and maybe as a Bollywood actor as well. So thanks, guys. You have a fantastic weekend. Thank you to Career Indaba. I think you guys are doing a fantastic work. This morning we had neurodiversity, neurodiverse talent. We had neuroscience. We had Dudu from, that's making waves in the chemical industry. And we've had Ntobisi, which is awesome. We had such a good mix of neuroscience, neurodevelopment, Eugene, Mabatu, Dudu, Ntobisi, and the organizing team of Career Indaba. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Guys, don't go away. Stay on for the last segments for the further of today for the Career Indaba talk shows and online shows and that sort of thing. And you have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and let's carry on serving humanity, hey?
Let's talk skill. Let's talk survival. Let's talk future. CareerTalk brings Africa's changemakers to one table where hiring meets hope. It's insight that moves you forward. It's leadership with purpose. Real talk, real growth. CareerTalk, because the future of work starts with you.